jer si milostivi čovekoljubi Bog i tebi slavu uznosimo, Otcu i Sinu i Svetome Duhu, sada i uvek i u vekove vekova.
In a world of shadows and secrets untold, where primeval stories make the brave go cold, mighty gods on high and realms below, whispers of legends that shape each soul. And nightmarish dreams, cryptids lurking, nothing's as it seems, giants walking, angels and demons fight, only truth can bring the light. Through the echoes of time the tales unfold, mysteries arise as the prophecies are foretold, from valiant knights to buried treasure, this podcast brings nothing but pleasure. Welcome to mysteries and majesty. Study with us, don't be a travesty. Theology, mythology, fantasy and horror, Dungeons and Dragons, Skyrim and Mordor. Phantom powers haunt the evening, in gothic castles where they're screaming. Wizards cast spells in their towers tonight, exploiting enigmas hidden from our sight. Archaeologists make excavations deep of the ancient tombs where pharaohs sleep. In the dust of ages we chronicles keep, storytelling's power of monsters that creep. Mysteries and majesty is the place for you to learn about this haunted space. From scholarship to manuscripts of old, unlock the secrets of wisdom and gold.
Well, for everyone who missed this dynamic duo, we're back with our stop segment, actually the whole segment on the podcast called the Fantastic Friday. And I miss making episodes with you, Shaun. I'm so glad. First that I came back from vacation, and then also you became available for the podcast again. When it comes to today's topic, when it comes to dissecting these fringe scientific theories, there's so much, at least when it comes to my perspective, but I want to ask you because I know that sometimes we have different views, and that's perfect because they can be complementary. I see so much of the material that we'll be dissecting these 5 stories tonight. I see so much of the comic books, novels, video games, TVs, and movies that we've been watching since we were kids, sci-fi, fantasy, horror, things of that sort, combined with some of the wildest theories. Like, could we dare that something exists out there? Could it be that this theory could be true? Is this all a hologram? What about parallel universes and things like that? And because we have so many topics to cover, this is just the beginning of this whole new chapter that in our Fantastic Friday segment we'll be dissecting the latest fringe scientific theories. So we picked these 5 topics for tonight that we'll be talking about. And first one has to deal with Martian civilizations. But before we go there, I just wanted to ask you, Shaun, how do you see all these new fringe scientific theories? Does it mean that this could be a new trend within science, that some scientists are daring to have new views on different, on the new and coming, topics out there?
So I think you're absolutely right that this kind of looks like comic books and like horror stories. Hi, Mom. Yeah, no, I think you're absolutely right. And the reason for that is we don't know what questions to ask unless we kind of have an idea of where we're going. And so Joshua Davidson has this really good line. It's that perception follows attention. And so when we know what we're looking for, we kind of, or when we have an idea of where we want to go, we know what to look for. And so it's right that this feels like comic book or like Marvel Cinematic Universe or like horror stories, because that's the art that has provided us a direction where we can go, and it's provided us with a list of questions that we can ask. And so with the scientific method, there's so much that we can uncover that there's no way that we would have categories for all of the things that we could explore and discover. So we're almost just catching up now scientifically with what the arts have been producing within the last 20 to 50 years.
Thank you. Thank you for that. And again, I miss the face, I miss the voice, and I'm so glad that we're back doing the, what we love. This is why Friday episodes are so dear to me, because even though they do require thinking and researching and having fine sources and scholarship, still we can get, a little bit, this, not to distance ourselves from the academic view, never, or from the biblical view, never. But these Friday episodes allow us to be a little bit more open-minded and see what is happening out there in the world, in pop culture, dissect all of these gods, demons, ghosts, eyewitness stories, and now even scientific stories with the Bible and with the worldview. And I think it's beautiful because this reminds me as if friends would gather around a campfire, having marshmallows, maybe, your favorite drink, and then talk about amazing, weird topics and stories like this one the whole night. And for me, like, that's the good reason worth living. Like, talk about these stories and like coming up with hypotheses and possible solutions. So the first topic that we'll be talking about tonight is probably one of the most coolest one. It comes from Dr. John Brandenburg, who is a plasma physicist. And he has proposed this controversial theory that an ancient Martian civilization was destroyed by a nuclear attack from an alien race. I'm like, dude, that's it's like they should make a TV show just based on his hypothesis, So we're switching to to the first of the articles, but thankfully to the archaeologist.com sources. So let's start digging with the first material. Harvard scientist claims a nuclear attack destroyed an ancient civilization on Mars. And here is the supposed evidence. So we'll be digging into that. The idea that an ancient civilization on Mars was destroyed by a nuclear attack from another alien species may sound like the plot of a science fiction novel. However, Harvard scientist, so this is not just a nobody, he's a Harvard scientist, Dr. John Brandenburg, argued that this event may have actually occurred. According to his theory, the ancient inhabitants of Mars, known as the Sidonians and Utopians, were wiped out by a nuclear attack, and the traces of this genocide are still visible on Mars today. He first suggested in 2011 that the red color of Mars could be due to a natural thermonuclear explosion, stating that the chemical elements on the surface of the red planet match those found around nuclear test fields on Earth. So when I was first reading this, I was like, yeah, it is fringe. And I'm like, I don't know what to think about it. I'm not a scientist. But this, at least the very beginning, I'm like, okay, but just trying by comparing, it makes sense. So the very beginning makes sense. So let's see the first subtopic, the xenon 129 isotope, right? This theory has sparked intense reactions, with many scientists arguing that there is no credible physical evidence, such as craters or remnants, that indicate a man-made or sudden nuclear explosion. Nevertheless, Dr. Brandenburg's theory resurfaced in the public eye with support from philosopher and science fiction author Jason Reza Georgiani. And here we can see these famous supposed faces when satellites take pictures from the surface of Mars, right? And we heard over the course of years so many theories. Could this be remains of structures, or maybe giants? And before I continue reading, Shaun, you've probably seen this. What is the wildest theory you heard about the surface of the Mars all these years?
Yeah, the craziest theory that I've heard was that, it was some alien race that built an effigy and it's visible from, our telescopes on Earth. I don't think that's credible at all. I think that the human mind tries to see patterns, and so we make out a face where there's just shadows. But I mean that's something that we do. You can see a face in tree bark if you look long enough. So I think that somebody came across this image and was like, "Oh, look, there's a face." And honestly, if you really look carefully, you can't even tell like which one of these rocks supposedly has the face. Is it the one that that looks like a typical Western face, or what about the one over on the left? If you cock your head sideways, you can see a face in that, and then one looks like a cyclopean or alien face. Like they all kind of have those characteristics. So yeah, what is it called when you see patterns? Is that pareidolia?
Yeah, I
Where
was about just to ask. I know it starts with P, but you remember the whole name. And that's what many, even in Christian and religious people, suffer from. They watch clouds, they see something, they're like, "Oh my gosh, I just saw angels. I just saw demons." I'm like, "Did you?" I'm like, "Okay, if you're a seer or something, yeah, God can show it to you." And I'm sorry, but I don't mean to ridicule your faith or what you think you saw, but I think so many people distort or assume what they saw, and they're like, "Oh, I saw this, that means that, and this is connected with this," and they come up with this conclusion that is usually always doomsday scenario, and they're like, "Oh, freaking out and trying to warn or scare other people." I'm like, okay, that's not how reality works.
Yeah, like I think there was a few years ago, somebody found what he thought was like the Virgin Mary burned on a piece of toast. Like, it's one of those things that's just like, dude, I mean, that's just how the brain works. Like, in a sense, that is how God designed us to be able to see his image in everything. But like you don't have to create a shrine to the piece of toast, right? Like that's not how this works.
I mean, if the toasts are really good, I'll be I'm kidding. I would, yeah. It's a good point. Yeah. So this philosopher Giorgiani mentioned Dr. Brandenburg's research in Danny Jones' podcast, emphasizing that the findings present disturbing evidence for the existence of life on Mars. He says that every planet has a certain amount of isotopes on different materials on it, and the isotopic ratio of xenon 129 is consistent throughout our solar system, except on Mars. Dr. Brandenburg's research focuses on the high concentration of xenon 125 in Mars's atmosphere, as well as the presence of uranium and thorium on its surface. This element is a stable, non-radioactive gas and is one of the natural forms of the element xenon, which exists in small amounts in Earth's atmosphere. While it is naturally occurring, this element is also released during nuclear fusion. And this is where the theory starts becoming more and more interesting. So what about these so-called structures in Mars Cydonia region? By the way, I love that word Cydonia. It sounds so sci-fi. NASA has detected higher than expected levels of xenon 129 in the Cydonia region of Mars. This area, located in the northern hemisphere of the planet, is famous for its human-like megalithic structures, according to philosopher Giorgiani. Conspiracy theories claim that these structures, including a face-like formation and giant pyramids. I would just about say these look like pyramids, at least from the satellite photos, but it's so hard to judge because these images are so imperfect. So hopefully, with better and better telescopes that humankind is making, we'll get better and better and more high quality images. NASA scientists argue that these formations are optical illusions caused by shadows and surface morphology, and I would completely take that into consideration as very plausible. However, Dr. Brandenburg believes that these points are remnants of nuclear explosions on the planet's surface. He says, when a thermonuclear bomb detonates, it leaves a trace of xenon 125 in the area, which is not normal. Philosopher Giorgiani says that adding to the Dr. Brandenburg's finding provide disturbing evidence for life on Mars. He says, according to the doctor, this is a very distinctive signature. It is irrefutable and directly tied to the detonation of nuclear weapons. Dr. Brandenburg also claims that Mars once had a climate similar to Earth's, with wild animals and plants, and that any intelligent life would have been as advanced as the ancient Egyptians on Earth. Okay, I'll stop here. I would say so far I like the idea, but like, okay, yeah, maybe they were advanced because they could have built, pyramids or pyramidal structures. But like, where are you getting? He's getting, I think, too far with this, and with animals and plants and God knows how much advanced technology. Maybe, but maybe not. It's like that's too difficult to discern just from mere images and these findings when it comes to the isotopes. Do you have any comment on this?
Absolutely. What's funny is like, okay, so hey, here's this idea, and maybe it could fit with the description of what we're seeing here. And therefore, because it might fit, it is irrefutable evidence of like, okay, that's crazy. But then we left Crazy Town and we went like to full bat crap crazy when we're like, oh yeah, it was like an Earth-like atmosphere, and they were at least as advanced as the Egyptians. I'm reminded of like when biologists find a portion of a tooth of an animal and construct an entire animal around it. It's like, dude, like that's imagination. There's no science that went into that. Like the science left the building at like the portion of a tooth. So when we're theorizing about what could have happened here, like, okay, so that's where we're using science, and everything else is the land of imagination, where we're like, oh yeah, they were at least this advanced. You're crazy. It's just crazy. They might as well say that the Paracas skulls were the people in Mars who built those pyramids, and that's why they came to Peru to build pyramids. Like, ridiculous. Just ridiculous. Like,
hey, Shaun, don't give the material to those cryptid podcasts.
Oh
this
no,
is your idea. Save it for a novel or for a special episode, because I don't want other people stealing our material.
It's already out of the bag. In a month, we're going to hear that the Paracas skulls were Martians.
That's a good one. So the CIA and Joe McMonagle's extrasensory perception. Philosopher Giorgiani further noted that Dr. Brandenburg's finding aligned with the CIA report describing an ancient civilization on Mars, whose inhabitants disappeared because the planet was destroyed. However, the CIA has never confirmed the existence of such a civilization on Mars. When you place the CIA data next to this doctor's theory, this nuclear event may have occurred around 100 million years ago, Giorgiani says. Oh yeah, just put any huge number out there and suddenly it's plausible because no one can go and check it, so then it's like, hey, just invented that theory, good luck trying to dispute that. In 1984, physicist Joe McMonagle was tasked with remote viewing Mars. Oh, these are the people with those psychological mental abilities to distance themselves and have this remote viewing of another places. Okay, this was happening in the Cold War and after Cold War, when Russians and Americans were doing this to each other. They were like spying on each other by people projecting their thoughts, to each other's country and trying to see their nuclear facilities and weapons in general. So this was part of the CIA's operation conducted at the Monroe Institute. He worked under contract for the CIA at this institute. The secret program, according to the Daily Mail, was conducted at Fort Meade, Maryland, hiring men and women who claimed to have extrasensory perception, ESP, to assist in uncovering military and domestic intelligence secrets. Toward the end of the program, the document called Mars Exploration, May 22, 1984, was published, declassified in 2017, and has resurfaced online. I know this theory must be true because this is my birthday. So I full-heartedly now believe in this theory to be true. Wholeheartedly. McMonagle was only given coordinates as a target and used his mind to see what was there. When McMonagle conducted this remote viewing session, he described being at the center of the ruins of a megalithic city with giant pyramids. He said that they looked like they were 3 times the size of the Great Pyramid of Giza. McManagle shared his experience last month on the Alchemy podcast. Oh, if it's on the Alchemy podcast, it must be true. Saying, I started to see images of people trapped in a place where the atmosphere was turning bad. It was obvious these people were dying for some reason, but they were people. They were just twice our size. So giants are dying on Mars. May someone call White House, please. McManagle, according to his account, secured negative photographs of Mars landscape showing a pyramid-shaped structure on the edge of a massive crater, just as he has seen during the CIA experiment. He also found images of a human bone, which he claimed it was located in the Martian landscape. So, Shaun, what do you think? Should we be contacting the authorities and telling them about Nephilim living on Mars and being in jeopardy?
Yeah, I want to issue an apology because I said that it was imagination, but because this was part of Project Looking Glass, which is where they would use extrasensory perception and try to identify different things, and they were doing it on a planet that we knew nothing about the surface of, and then just taking that and it was like instantly canon. I don't think it's imagination anymore. I think these people are legitimately crazy. Like just and the fact that you would include that as evidence for your theory that there was once life on Mars, because this one dude who says I have mental powers, bro, trust me, says that like, hey, there was this place and the pyramids were about 3 times the size of the pyramids of Giza. I don't know what he's using for a frame of reference, but yeah, 3 times the size. And the people were twice as big. So, I mean, I guess that's where all your giants went, is they just decided to hop a ship and they came here. So if their planet was destroyed 100 million years ago, then, maybe that was their spacecraft landing is what killed the dinosaurs. Who knows?
And the McDonald's were 5 times bigger. He forgot to mention that. But because it was on the Alchemy podcast, I believe it's true.
Yes. Instead of super size, they have super duper size on Mars. Yes, 1 size bigger. That's right.
Yeah, super size me. Okay, now we have a short video, this same article, just coming from another person. So let's watch it and comment on this when it's over. I hope there is a sound. If not, we'll just watch images, videos. Yeah, there's no sound. Again, where's the evidence for these 2 races, Sidonians and Utopians?
His evidence is, trust me, bro.
Yeah, I mean, the most common one. But what drew me to this theory is that the soil would represent the soil on Earth, where they had nuclear testing, would supposedly match or parallel those on the surface of Mars. I'm like, that's cool. That's interesting.
Yeah, I think that the land, over in Arizona also matches the surface of the moon, which, there's probably nothing to that.
And it's funny how they say 100 million years ago there was a genocide. We should do what can you do about it? Even if it happened, hypothetically speaking, it was 100 million years ago. What can you do about it? I mean,
we got to pay reparations to Mars.
Man, this should be a season for X-Files. I think they should have, because I heard that the last season is coming out. I think it will be cool if they will include at least 1 episode about this thing. But yeah, that was the end of that video. Yeah, any final conclusion on this theory before we switch to the octopuses ruling the future of our planet?
Yeah, so I just want to point out that they use the word irrefutable and conclusively when they meant the opposite of those things. So, words have meaning, and I just can't believe that they're giving people PhDs who don't know how to do research.
I also want to say that since we've been getting more subs, and I've been advertising and doing the marketing of the channel a lot in the last couple of months, We may have more live viewers on our, these Fantastic Friday episodes than usual. So I just want to greet everyone and say thank you for coming. Even if you stop by for a second or two, maybe you're like, man, I made a mistake. This is garbage. Still, thank you for coming. Okay, yeah. So the next topic is also a cool one. Professor Tim Coulson proposed that octopuses could one day rise as the next builders of civilization. Man, like I'm getting Cthulhu vibes. Okay, and I'll ask Shaun to start reading this, but not from the very beginning. I wanted to show to everyone. Let me just share the article. Yeah, so this is the article. This is the dude. He's looking the wrong side, but that's okay. He's PhD, so his theory must be true. So, yeah, Professor Tim Coulson on evolution and human extinction and his surprising pick for Earth's next ruler. So, at the very beginning of the article, he's explaining what is evolution. He's talking about when human race started existing. How old are we? The Earth, and then when he's asking this interview about the future, about of our civilization and life, he starts talking about primates in general, and then he's switching dolphins, and he goes from dolphins and birds to octopuses. So, Shaun, can you please start reading from this? I'll enlarge the the document a little bit more for you. Yeah, we can start with dolphins and just moving towards the end of the article.
Perfect. Let's start with the species that can't walk on Earth. Excellent. All right. Certain birds like crows, ravens, and parrots are remarkably intelligent, being able to solve quite complex puzzles. They can also build shared nesting areas that can endure for many years, fostering long-term community bonds and a type of simple culture. Some insect species construct intricate, towering habitats that echo the complexity and organization found in human societies. Although this behavior is driven by instinct, genetics, more than intelligence. I think the reason that it looks like human stuff is because we modeled it off of their stuff. It's not the other way around. But that's okay. He's the evolutionary biologist.
Yeah, he knows.
Yeah, PhDs and stuff. However, it's unlikely that birds or insects could take over the ecological role once occupied by humans, as they lack the fine motor skills needed to construct a civilization. Octopuses, on the other hand, are a potentially better candidate for filling an ecological niche in a post-human world. Well, they don't have any competition in the ocean right now, so I don't understand why they're not doing that already, right? But that's okay. I'm not the evolutionary biologist.
But their savior and master Kraken is probably ruling them in the underworld on Atlantis. We just don't know that yet. But in the sequel of this episode, we'll probably find sources from scholars talking about that.
That's what it is. Is the extinction of humanity will be preceded by the awakening of Cthulhu, and that's why octopuses will over. Yeah, that makes sense now because he sleeps in Relais.
Yeah, and I think their realm is fighting against Aquamans. It all makes sense finally.
It does. That's going to be the next Marvel movie. Why octopuses? What makes them such strong contenders in the evolutionary race? Octopuses are among the most intelligent, adaptable, and resourceful creatures on Earth. Their ability to solve complex problems, communicate with one another in flashes of color, manipulate objects, and even camouflage themselves with stunning precision suggests that, given the right environmental conditions, they could evolve into a civilization-building species following the extinction of humans. Their advanced neural structures, decentralized nervous system, and remarkable problem-solving skills make several species of octopus well-suited for an unpredictable world. I do have a question here. I wonder if he's talking about squid and not octopus, because octopuses are solitary creatures. Squid hunt in groups, and they do use their pattern flashing in order to communicate, but it's only to communicate like, hey, there's the thing over there, go kill that. So I don't,
but again, question in evolution is
right. I don't have the PhD. These qualities could allow them to exploit new niches and adapt to a changing planet, especially in the absence of human influence. You mentioned their intelligence. Could you elaborate on their cognitive abilities and how these might contribute to their potential success? In a world where mammals dominate, octopuses remain an underappreciated contender. Their advanced cognition, tool use, and ability to adapt to changing environments provides a blueprint for what might emerge as the planet's next intelligent species after humans. Some individuals even escape from their tanks at night in some research centers, visiting those of the neighbors, believe it or not. Didn't a hamster also do that and impregnate like 100 other hamsters? Or maybe it was a guinea pig? Yeah. But, whatever. The octopus, right?
High intelligence.
High intelligence.
High intelligence. I marvel at his physical abilities. He just finished the business.
Right. That was a marathon. It was the love of the game. That's the only thing that kept him going.
That guinea pig is probably the king of other guinea pigs. They're all bowing to him like, almighty.
That's right. Yeah, he's going to be the Genghis Khan of guinea pigs. Like 6% of all guinea pigs are going to be related to him.
Yeah, like every 10th of each of those is like belongs to him. Yeah.
That's right.
But honestly, I didn't understand fully this last sentence that you just read. I'm like, why are you telling us?
Yeah, they break out of prison to go chill with their neighbors. Like, okay, yeah, that doesn't, to me, that's not really a sign of intelligence. I mean, basically all creatures do that. But their dexterity is clearly a significant advantage. How does this compare to other species such as primates, who are often considered our closest relatives? Octopuses are capable of distinguishing between real and virtual objects, solving puzzles, interacting with their environment, handling intricate tools with their thumb-like tentacles, and thriving in a wide variety of habitats from deep sea trenches to coastal regions. Yeah, but Coco the gorilla could speak in sign language. So, I think that she's even got to step up, rest in peace, Coco. But I think she's even got to step up above the octopuses. So I don't understand what they're doing here. And they already live in social units. And they build nests. This entire article pisses me off because gorillas are obviously the next contender.
Yeah, and I've seen videos of dogs opening fridges and passing beer to their male owners. I'm like, I would take that bet, anytime before any octopus. I mean, unless octopus can bring you 8 beers at once, then that could be a game changer.
Yeah, and you're right. And dogs will have to outlive humans because otherwise Keanu Reeves will kill everybody. So obviously they can't go extinct before us.
That should be in the latest movie.
There you go. It's intriguing to imagine these underwater cities you describe, but could octopuses ever truly conquer land? I am, of course, speculating, but their dexterity and intelligence makes them a strong candidate to evolve to build a civilization. Octopuses are unlikely to adapt to life on land due to their lack of a skeleton, which makes swift and angle movements out of water challenging. However, these creatures, some reaching up to 20 feet in length and weighing about 110 pounds, could potentially construct underwater communities resembling cities we see on land. But it may take them hundreds of thousands or even millions of years to evolve to do this. With evolutionary advances, it is possible, if not probable, that they might develop ways to breathe outside of water and eventually hunt terrestrial animals like deer, sheep, and other mammals, assuming they have survived the catastrophe. Okay, I'm sorry. Octopuses are invertebrates. This is one of the oldest, phylum. They don't belong to Chordata. These are the oldest, like hundreds of millions of years old, according to evolution. They've had the time. They have not yet constructed their Atlantis to come and take over the world.
I actually think that octopuses are responsible for destroying Martians on Mars.
Yes, facts.
I think on Mars they already evolved long ago, and they're those throwing grenades and nukes to the Nephilim so that octopuses can go and catch the Martian version of deer, sheep, and other mammals. I think it finally makes sense.
Yes, you're absolutely right. The Martian antelope went extinct because of the Martian octopus.
Yeah, it's all in encyclopedia. I don't know which one. It's not Britannica, but it's one of those.
Yeah, it's in the Miskatonic Encyclopedia. Yep. from Miskatonic University, Lovecraft. Okay. Do you believe octopuses could truly step into humanity's shoes? It's important to remember that these are just possibilities and that it's impossible to predict with any degree of certainty how evolution will unfold over extended periods, except for the fact that the past kind of shows what the future is going to do. And for the last 200 million years, they've remained absolutely unchanged, but whatever. Random mutations, unforeseen extinction events, and population bottlenecks can all significantly influence the trajectory of evolution, making it challenging to determine whether another species will develop human-level intelligence or the inclination to construct cities. But could octopuses replace humans and potentially also primates if they were to die out? Absolutely. They could become the brains of the sea. I hate this. Like, this is just, are you kidding me? These guys lived through Megalodon. Like, there's no amount of evolutionary pressure that you can put on this that hasn't already been there. They survived the dinosaur extinction in relatively the exact same form that they're in now. How do you, evolution's not going to change it. And what would move them to build cities? Like, we build cities because we're agrarian societies and we can put fields around the cities and feed everybody easier. But octopuses mainly eat fish. So, and clams and stuff. What are they going to do? Like, if you build a city of octopus, you've got, like, hunting doesn't make sense to a centralized civilization. It just doesn't make sense. I don't know.
Do you think they'll be hunting, riding on horses, or maybe jumping?
Seahorses.
Like yeah.
Seahorses. Yep.
Makes sense. Would they have domes?
Yes. They'll use clamshells for the domes, obviously. Yep. There's a certain science fiction quality to these possibilities. How seriously should we take this idea of an octopus takeover? Would octopuses build vast underwater cities and come onto land wearing breathing apparatuses to shoot a deer? We've no way of knowing. No, we do have a way of knowing. That's never going to happen. Okay, sorry. But we certainly can't rule it out. Yes, we can.
You know, it's so cool when you have all these high degrees, then you're allowed to make the most ridiculous, hypotheses and theories. And yeah, people can laugh at you, but you can still keep your job. And it's like you're allowed to, because the level of degree you have can open the door, maybe not to the scientific community, but at least to the fringe, community. And if you write, articles and books and sell them, man, millions would buy who are into this way more fringe topics that we actually like. So yeah, just because you're a doctor and you come up with any theory, it shouldn't just open any door to anything. You should have more solid sources for anything you're claiming, even if it's just a theory.
Yeah. Who would have predicted it? Our ancestors living a few million years ago would evolve into humans and dominate the planet? Well, I think Australopithecus was like 2 million years ago. So that was almost identical to modern anatomic humans. So yes, everyone would have predicted that. Probably not. Are you sure you're an evolutionary biologist? Yet humans learned to catch fish and navigate over and underwater. So it is also possible, if not probable, that octopuses might do the same on land. Of course, the rise of octopuses is all speculative. Evolution is unpredictable, and we can't say with certainty what path it will take in the event of a human extinction.
Shaun, have you noticed that whenever he uses the word probable, it's kind of changing the whole atmosphere of that passage whenever he uses it in this interview? Oh, it's not just possible, but it's probable. That kind of brings it like more to like, oh, it's real. Is this real? No, is as much as real as the next 3 seconds there will be Mothman knocking on my door delivering cupcakes. It's possible, maybe even probable, but most likely won't happen. So it's like, where are my sources? Yeah, it's just my imagination and it sounds fun. Yes, if I'm reading or reading a sci-fi novel, perfect. More than that, is this real as scientific theory? I don't know.
No, I don't think it is. I think this is just speculation. I think he's got the same source as the dude who said that the Martians were as advanced as the Egyptians, and the citation is "Trust me, bro." Okay, the future of life on Earth is shaped by countless variables, and any number of species could rise to prominence. That said, given the octopus's remarkable intelligence, adaptation, and diverse range of survival strategies, it wouldn't be the most far-fetched bet to imagine them thriving in a post-human world. The assumptions that this guy is coming to is that it is inevitable for some species to rise to become the intellectual powerhouse of the world. The problem with that theory is that even in evolution, there has never been a species to dominate the landscape of the planet Earth like humans have ever. As far as being able to change the environment and build structures like we have, so it's almost like he's thinking it's inevitable that this would happen, but it's never happened before in the 4.5 billion years that Earth has been here. So I don't see why you would think it's inevitable that another species would rise to the same prominence. Just doesn't make sense to me, especially if you think that evolution is just, blind chance. Why would it happen?
Yeah, thanks for that. So I'm gonna switch to Shaun, your most favorite topic for tonight. Can you guess it?
Is it the conscious sun?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm gonna read it and then we'll watch a 5-minute video.
Okay.
Let me just make sure that everyone can see. Perfect. So is our universe trapped inside a black... Ooh, no, this is a black hole. Okay, so I guess for the sun conscious, let's first watch the video, and then we'll see if I have the article. And this comes from another scholar, because again, all of these are scientific scholarly hypotheses and theories coming tonight from Dr. Rupert Sheldrake. I believe that's how we pronounce his last name. So let's listen to him. It's only 5 minutes. Again, it's about sun being conscious.
Traditional cultures have thought of the sun as alive and conscious. I lived in India for 7 years, and in India, Hindus, for example, take it for granted that the sun is a conscious being. It's not as if scientists have ever proved the sun or the other stars are unconscious. They've just assumed it because Descartes said so in the 17th century, defined all matter as unconscious by definition, not by proof, empirical inquiry, rational discussion. A simple prejudice and taboo has become established on these questions where they're not valid topics for discussion, except perhaps at the weekend university. I think that the question, it's an open question, is the sun conscious? And then if we think about that a little bit more, well, the first, we'd have to recognize straight away that if the sun's conscious, then all the other stars are probably conscious too. What's the interface between its mind and its body? Well, what's the interface between our brains and our minds, our bodies and our minds? Most people would think that that interface is to do with the electrical patterns of activity in the brain, that's what it relates to our consciousness. EEG, alpha rhythms, theta waves, delta rhythms, and so on, depend on your state of consciousness. That somehow the electrical activity of the brain is what underlies mental activity. This is what electrochemical activity, because of course there are neurotransmitters, but it's principally the electrical activity that people are interested in, and neurophysiologists measure and neuroscientists measure this activity through all sorts of electrical devices, not just EEGs, electroencephalographs. Well, does the sun have electrical activity? Well, yes, it does. The sun has immensely complex patterns of electrical activity. It has its whole surface is covered with granulations, millions of them. Each side of the sun has at least 1 million of these granulations, which are like convection cells, which are made of electrically charged plasma. They set up electrical currents through their movements. Then you have 11-year cycles of solar activity, the sunspot cycle, where you get more and more sunspots, and each sunspot is dark because there's such intense magnetic fields coming out of it that they form huge loops with other sunspots, and they sort of push everything else aside. And those magnetic fields interact and underlie the heat in the solar corona. The corona of the sun is about 5 million degrees centigrade. The photosphere, the bit you see when you look at the sun, is only about 5,000 degrees centigrade. So there's a lot of heat generated, and it's thought to happen through the interaction of these magnetic fields. And this is completely unpredictable, the behavior of the sun. That's why NASA, the American Space Administration, issues weather forecasts, solar weather forecasts, because the activity of the sun is very variable. Even these 11-year cycles are rather variable. Every 11 years, around the middle of the sunspot cycle, the sun's magnetic polarity reverses. So its north magnetic pole becomes the south pole. So the entire polarity of the sun flips. But sometimes it doesn't flip that much, or these cycles are rather weak. Recently, we've had a very weak solar cycle. So the sun is full of immensely active, highly differentiated electrical activity and magnetic activity. And this is instantly integrated through the electrical and magnetic fields of the sun, which permeate the entire solar system. The solar wind comes out of the sun and reaches right to the end. The whole solar system has a kind of membrane around it called the heliopause, where the solar wind encounters the galactic wind of charged particles moving through the galaxy. And where they interact, it forms a kind of membrane around the solar system. We're all enclosed in a kind of bubble. And within that bubble, everything's dominated by the sun's electromagnetic field, its radiation, and the solar wind of charged particles that are coming out of the sun all the time. Sometimes there are more than others. There are coronal mass ejections when huge billions of tons of matter pushed out of the sun. There's also solar flares, which send out intense pulses of charged particles. If one of them hits the Earth, it takes out our power transmission systems. And if a really powerful one hit the Earth, it would cripple our whole civilization, because our national grid and other electrical transmission systems act as aerials for this, and would absorb this energy and would blow out all the transformers. Take months to make enough new transformers to restore the national grid. So the sun can have enormous effects here on Earth. Its 11-year cycles affect the climate, the weather, and it could, if it chose, take out civilization as we know it at any time. So the sun may have all sorts of possibilities in its mind if it's conscious. It's assumed to be totally random within regular science. You know, Hindus who do their daily prayer with the Gayatri mantra think that the sun's being kind to us because they're asking it to be kind to us. You know, we may scorn what they're doing and say, oh, what ridiculous superstition, but it may be we're all benefiting from it without realizing it.
Okay, so that's an interesting material. So the sun may be conscious. The sun is unpredictable. We may think it's just randomly, throwing all these, heat solar waves towards us. But these scientists, just like some others, they are assuming could sun be conscious, but that causes. I mean, this is the topic that can lead to so many ways. It can lead to the ancient Near East people, where they thought that the planets and stars were actually angelic beings. This can lead like, well, if the sun is conscious, what does it mean? Does it have its own mind, so to speak? Well, if it's a mind, behind every mind there is an entity. Let's say it's a spiritual entity, but who is controlling this entity? Where this entity came from? Who is guiding it? Under whose domain it is? Doing its own job, so to speak, and the job would be to send the light, right, and the warmth, also give life to our planet. So again, if the sun is conscious, which to me sounds crazy, but again, it opens so many doors to so many questions out there, and inevitably my mind, Shaun, goes immediately to ancient Near East people, how they saw, including the ancient Israelites and Hebrews, that they would think, like, when they were talking and describing, cosmic bodies, they would see them as divine. They would see them as angelic beings, actually. So can you please share some of the thoughts you have, even if you have multiple? Because like I said, this can go in so many different directions.
Yeah, so I am somewhat convinced by the theory of panpsychism, which is a theory to try to explain how consciousness emerges in sufficiently complex systems. And the idea is that consciousness is kind of something that exists, in the particulate, in everything. And that when you have sufficiently complex systems, that the consciousness can kind of become self-aware. And of course, this whole system would be directed by God, such that you would have like a person being aware that they are themselves like a singular being. But then it would also make sense for lower strata life forms like dogs and cats, why they sometimes appear to have some sort of like proto consciousness, where they have this idea that they are a differentiated being. So I'm somewhat like partial to the idea that there could be something going on, but we also have to remember that the sun, although it is just massive, it's very simple. You have hydrogen and helium, and it's mostly hydrogen, and it's producing helium, and that's what stars do. So it doesn't have the sufficient complexity of like a brain. Now he was saying, well, it's mostly the electrical pulses that we think of in a brain. No, no, that's not how that works. The electrical pulses are raw data that is sent from one neuron to the other, and then it's interpreted by the neuron, and then you have the data that is differentiated and sent out in different directions in order to create something resembling like a thought, which is activating, millions of brain cells in order to have that thought. So in that you require hormones, which are, we don't think of them as very complex chemicals, but when you're talking about something like the sun, which has one atom, like helium is one atom. There's nothing complex in hydrogen, and it's producing helium, which is two atoms. So a hormone would be extremely complex. And just because it's big doesn't mean that it has the complexity to be like what our brains are, right? Because our brains are extremely complex systems. This is a huge thing, but it's a very simple system. So is it possible that the sun has consciousness? Yeah. I mean, if I subscribe to panpsychism, yes, I could say that the sun has some sort of super simple consciousness. What does that mean? I don't think that it has a mind. I don't think it's directing its own patterns. I just think that it does what it does because it was created by the creator to do certain things, right? So and that's where I would draw the line and say, yeah, you could say that the sun has consciousness, but it doesn't mean that it's self-aware or self-determined. It's not a volitional creature. It is a creature that does what it was created to do. I mean, our seas are thousands of times more complex than the sun, even though they're much smaller, and they have tons of life forms and organisms living in them. And yet we don't look at the sea and ascribe sentience to the sea, right? So why would we look at the sun and ascribe sentience to it? And then when he's like, well, if the sun decided to, it could. Okay, so you went from, hey, it's possible, to, oh yeah, he now has this volitional role in what he does. That's crazy talk. So those are just some of my thoughts on the subject.
Yeah. First, I didn't know that Hindus believe in this and they even pray to the sun. But then again, they have like supposedly over 300 million gods. So I'm not super surprised. The second thing is, if I also, my mind also went to the intelligent design theory, because it's like, if everything is put in order by God, who is the unmoved mover and the uncaused cause, then everything, even this bottled water, has purpose in his creation. And of course, this was not made by God, because people made bottle, they made plastic, but he made water. So if he's causing wind, then the wind is acting according to God's plan. If God made the sun and he did, then the sun is acting according to its own purposes, how God made it, just the same way he made this chain of the food chain on the planet. How animals look like, how they feed, this whole ecological system is made by God. So they're operating under the circumstances that God provided for them, and that he made each of these species unique. So yeah, I would agree. I would say I don't know if sun has any consciousness, but whatever it does based on how it was and why it was made, to be, and what was the purpose for it. So if it was made to give light and warmth, then so be it. So then it will act that way. We're going to switch now to the article that speaks of the same thing. Let me I found it first. I lost it and then I found it. Came from last year. It's called "The Sun Has Consciousness: An Ancient Philosophical Hypothesis Gains Popularity." And I'll try to skip portions and sections that we already heard in the video. There's a theory that consciousness is limited not only to living beings, but also to inanimate ones. All physical objects of the universe, planets, stars, galaxies, have in mind and feel the world around them. This concept known as, oh, Shaun, they're talking about the same thing you're talking. Look,
I've
that's
got good
cool.
ideas sometimes.
Oh, yeah, it's like, dude, like you should be writing this type of articles. So this concept known as panpsychism, is it how you pronounce it? Okay.
Yes, panpsychism.
Okay, so it's not new and it has been around for thousands of years. Wow. I wonder if it's only because of Hindu theology. So let's find out. A new publication in Popular Mechanics raises the question of this philosophical trend that consciousness is present in everything that exists. Although the original versions of this idea were expressed in ancient Greece, the term panpsychism was introduced in the 16th century by the Italian philosopher Francesco Patrizzi. And unless I'm wrong, I think that some Christian mystics throughout the history of the church, they believe something very similar, Shaun. I heard this from some of our Eastern Orthodox converts, Americans who converted to the Eastern branch of the church, and they've been reading some mystics, and I think that some of the mystics had similar idea that everything would be conscious, including a stone, but not like you said that it has its own mind. So I'm just thinking, could there be any relation to this?
Yeah, it's common. It's common in Eastern Orthodox and in traditional Latin Christianity, but with the idea of everything, like materialism and physicalism taking over, then that kind of went to the wayside. But yeah, it's really it belongs properly in both Eastern Christianity and Western Christianity. We just kind of have lost that concept.
Okay, thanks for clarification. The idea partially lost its popularity under the influence of logical positivism in the 1920s. But already at the beginning of the 21st century, it began to gain popularity again. In 2004, Giulio Tononi, an Italian neuroscientist, proposed an integrated information theory of consciousness, which argues that consciousness is a common phenomenon. In 2014, famous neuroscientist Christoph Koch supported this idea in his Scientific American article. So unlike the former two theories from two former scientists, these dudes have been publishing their ideas and theories in like legit scientific magazines. So this already has more heaviness, so to speak, from the scientific community than the previous two topics that we covered when it comes to octopuses in the future building societies and ruling the earth. And what was the first one? Oh yeah, and the potential nuclear explosion 100 million years ago on the face of Mars. Even though I love those two topics because they're so sci-fi, but this third topic for tonight seems way more plausible and way more scientifically grounded, and that's why we have to pay attention. Yeah, so in 2014, Christoph Koch supported this idea in his Scientific American article, arguing that groups of elementary particles could have consciousness because how else to explain the nature of wave-particle dualism? Even the scientist Ben Hurls, known as the pioneer of artificial intelligence, supports the idea of this theory. So this is the dude that is starting Skynet. Shaun, please remember his name.
Yeah, Ben Herzl.
Okay, so you're the main dude responsible for AI. Okay, good to know. Good to know when T2 comes knocking on our doors. Rupert Sheldrake, a biologist and writer, supported this theory in 2021, stating that the sun might have consciousness. His opinion about the connection of consciousness with rhythmic electromagnetic fields remains controversial, but it creates interesting considerations. Although the idea of panpsychism has no scientific basis and it's often rejected, it remains interesting for science fiction. There is a possibility that the sun has its own consciousness and can influence events on Earth through solar flares and other phenomena. This idea remains only hypothetical. Shaun, I hope that the concluding part won't make you cry. Are you a little bit disappointed?
Well, the way that the scientific method is set up is that there's really no way to be able to test whether or not every object has consciousness. And if every object does have consciousness, there's no control against which to test whether it has consciousness. So there is no way to test for that theory. But it's just a theory that makes the most sense of how consciousness could emerge among sufficiently complex systems.
Word. Okay, I'm gonna turn off this article and we're gonna switch to black holes. Shaun will have the privilege to read the first one, and after that, we'll be switching to the last and maybe even the most interesting topic for tonight when it comes to the one or two interstellar objects approaching Earth, where both the doomsday proponents and some scientists are joining forces to tell us, hey, maybe the doomsday is coming. Maybe you should subscribe to this channel before Jesus comes. Just maybe. I don't think it's a bad idea, but I mean, what do I know? Yeah, Shaun, the floor is yours. So we're going to talk about a black hole theory, which basically says, hey, could we be actually living inside the black hole? And I think with today's taxes and everything happening in our world and politics, I think this is very plausible. It's just not that type of black hole you may be thinking.
Absolutely. Totally agree. Is our universe trapped inside a black hole? This James Webb Space Telescope discovery might blow your mind. I think that the simplest explanation of the rotating universe is the universe was born in a rotating black hole. Okay, but then what universe does that black hole live in? Okay. All right, sorry.
I'm just going slow because I want people to see all of these images and pointing arrows and galaxies and all of this. Yeah, it says galaxies. These are a little bit smaller letters, so I'll just read these. It says galaxies observed by the this is James Webb Telescope with rotating. I'm gonna put it up so people can still see. With those rotating one-way circled in red, those rotating the other way circled in blue. Okay, so at least we got some explanation. Okay, you can continue.
Without a doubt, since its launch, the James Webb Space Telescope has revolutionized our view of the early universe, but its new findings could put astronomers in a spin. In fact, it could tell us something profound about the birth of the universe by possibly hinting that everything we see around us is sealed within a black hole. The $10 billion telescope, which began observing the cosmos in the summer of 2022, has found that the vast majority of deep space, and thus the early galaxies it has so far observed, are rotating in the same direction. While around 2/3 of galaxies spin clockwise, the other third rotates counterclockwise, which goes against the law of the conservation of angular momentum. In a random universe, scientists would expect to find 50% of galaxies rotating one way, while the other 50% rotate the other way. This new research suggests that there is a preferred direction for galactic rotation. The observation of 263 galaxies that revealed the strange coordinated cosmic dance was collected as part of the James Webb Space Telescope Advanced Deep Extragalactic Survey, or JADES. It is still not clear what causes this to happen, but there are two primary possible explanations. Team leader Lior Shamir, associate professor of computer science at the Carl R. Ice College of Engineering, said in a statement, "One explanation is that the universe was born rotating. That explanation agrees with theories such as black hole cosmology, which postulates that the entire universe is in the interior of a black hole. But if the universe was indeed born rotating, it means that the existing theories about the cosmos are incomplete. Born in a black hole. Black hole cosmology, also known as Schwarzschild cosmology, suggests that our observable universe might be the interior of a black hole itself within a larger parent universe. The idea was first introduced by theoretical physicist Raj Kumar Pathria and by mathematician I.J. Good. It presents the idea that the Schwarzschild radius, better known as the event horizon, the boundary from which nothing can escape a black hole, not even light, is also the horizon of the visible universe. This has another implication. Each and every black hole in our universe could be the doorway to another baby universe. These universes would be unobservable to us because they are also behind an event horizon, a one-way light trapping point of no return from which light cannot escape, meaning information can never travel from the interior of the black hole to an external observer. This
Shaun,
is a theory.
can we just stop here, please, for a second?
Yeah.
Like, this brings my mind everywhere. Like, would this hypothesis that we cannot observe this, other universes, would this hypothesis be also applicable to Doctor Strange? Because I think he's able to go anywhere and observe everything.
Yeah, I'm not sure if Doctor Strange is bound by the Schwarzschild radius or if he can move beyond the event horizon and get to other universes in other black
But if he
holes.
gets more Schwartz in his veins, could it be? Like,
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, okay.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. So everything is possible to those who believe.
That's right. That's right.
And take some juice.
That's right. Yeah, yep. You got to take some juice and you got to believe really hard, just like Disney says.
Yeah, because we saw recently Brock's photos. He's not pumped anymore, and everyone is speculating did he stop taking juice. So that's my mind is going to that.
Yeah. They fail to understand that he could probably still beat them all up. But this is a theory that has been championed by Polish theoretical physicist Nikodem Poplawski of the University of New Haven. Black holes are born when the core of a massive star collapses. At its heart is matter with a density that far exceeds anything in the known universe. In Poplawski's theory, eventually the coupling between torsion, the twisting and turning of matter, and spin becomes very strong and prevents the matter from compressing infinitely to a singularity. The matter instead reaches a state of finite, extremely large density, stops collapsing, and undergoes a bounce like a compressed spring and starts rapidly expanding, Poplawski explained to space.com. Extremely strong gravitational forces near this state cause an intense particle production, increasing the mass inside a black hole by many orders of magnitude and strengthening the gravitational repulsion that powers the bounce. The scientists continued by adding the rapid recoil after such a big bounce could be what has led to our expanding universe in an event we now know as the Big Bang. It produces a finite period of cosmic inflation, which explains why the universe that we observe today appears at largest scales flat, homogeneous, and isotropic, Poplawski said. Torsion in the gravity of an extended theory of Einstein's general relativity therefore provides a plausible theoretical explanation of a scenario, according to which every black hole produces a new baby universe inside and becomes an Einstein-Rosen bridge, or a wormhole that connects this universe to the parent universe in which the black hole exists.
Okay, we have more, but I just want to stop here for a few reasons. First, we got almost 10 people watching live, and that almost never happens on
There you go.
Friday sessions. So I'm so excited that people are catching up, even though they probably missed tons of great episodes we did. On
Welcome
Fridays.
to Fantastic Fridays.
Yeah, welcome. Also, I wanted to appreciate our brother from was it Ecuador? I believe so.
Yes.
He comments with us every Friday and even some Sundays. He says this episode reminds me so much of reading Dembski's Mere Creation. I also want to appreciate the photo, the design. It's like brings your mind in so many ways, because at the beginning of the article that you were reading, basically like they didn't use the word portal or gate. But like this is basically they're talking basically about stargates where you can basically like in Matrix, right?
Mm-hmm.
We all watch Matrix. You open one door, you end up somewhere else in a room. But imagine if that room is a whole universe or a galaxy or whatever you want to call it, black hole. It's like so many questions. What do you even do with this? You know, it's like there's sometimes there are fields of science that once when it touches, it goes into metaphysics, it goes into philosophy, it goes into spirituality, it goes into theology. Inevitably, you can't stop this, you can't prevent this. You can't just say, okay, I'm gonna just touch this. Oh, but once when it goes to the super weird, super fringe, I'm gonna stop. Because fortunately, even though we've been laughing for the first two theories and scientists proposing some crazy stuff, I still appreciate that some of the scientists and academics, they're not so scared to promote the ideas. Like we see in Christian academia, some of them are scared to talk about the possibility of other gods existing, giants in the past, things like that. They're like, no, I'm just going to talk about systematic theology, bro. Okay, that's fine, but there is more than what you've been reading or studying and teaching as professor. So I can appreciate when a scientist says, hey, I'm not trying to sound crazy. These are the sources. It's not just me. Some others are saying, could it be? Well, it's possible, but I don't know. So I can appreciate that. I'm curious. I don't know yet. I'm going to be humble. And these are the evidence I'm going to present. So that's why I like this idea, because I'm not saying I believe that we're living in a black hole that actually belongs to a bigger universe. But what this is leading me is like, there could be spiritual passages or portals. Let's talk about Jacob's ladders for a ladder for a second. He had a vision. Well, people, scholars are saying that, well, it could have been a portal. It could have been something like a ziggurat where he would actually see angels, but why not even demons coming from one type of reality to ours and interfering, with our reality? So it's like, well, what if science is catching up and trying to explain imperfectly, but trying to explain some of these things? What about those, invisible passages, portals? I'm not trying to sound crazy or like so much into like wild theories, but I mean, if sometimes what the Bible says, then the experiences and the science, we can try to come up with a somewhat plausible theory of something. And of course, we wouldn't know every detail, but that's why we're discussing. We're just trying to understand, even though we have no firm conclusion. So this is why I appreciate, not just the image, but the whole story. Like, oh, what about these passages? What about these, other, I won't call them universes. I don't believe in that, in the multiverse theory. But what about, let's call them other realities, other dimensions. I'm like, bang, now we're talking about the biblical worldview. So yeah, I want to also allow you to comment on this.
Yeah, so this reminds me of, I think it's in Buddhist cosmology, where you have the earth and it's held up by pillars, and then there's elephants under the pillars, and then the elephants are supported by a giant turtle. And then I can't remember who it was, but was asked, well, what supports the turtle? Well, it's a bigger turtle. Well, what supports that turtle? Well, it's a bigger turtle. Well, what supports that? It's turtles all the way down. And okay, so all right, so our universe is in a black hole.
There must be Ninja Turtles.
So our universe is in a black hole. Okay, well, where's that black hole? It's in another universe. Well, where's that universe? Ah, it's in another black hole. Okay, well, where's that black hole? It's black holes all the way down. So yeah, this gets into, it's a logical fallacy of infinite regress. It's something that can't happen, and this is the links that people will go to say anything but intelligent design, right? So, oh, well, this could explain it. Yeah, but then that leads to an infinite regress. Well, that's better than God. So we'll go with that.
I just want to add one more thing. I think that black holes are kind of boring, and it's like, I think they need some interior design and painting. Maybe let's make purple or orange holes, so they won't be black holes anymore. I know there are white holes who are supposedly worse for us than black holes and way more difficult to assess and get any data. But like, what about orange holes? I mean, I want justice for all the colors equally. That should be our slogan. We should start a political party. Justice for other holes.
Orange is a new black hole.
The orange theory.
In the new universe, according to this theory, the parent universe appears as the other side of the new universe's only white hole, a region of space that cannot be entered from the outside, and which can be thought of as the reverse of a black hole. Accordingly, our own universe could be the interior of a black hole existing in another universe, Poplawski continued. The motion of matter through the black hole's boundary, called an event horizon, can only happen in one direction, providing a past-future asymmetry at the horizon and thus everywhere in the baby universe. The arrow of time in such a universe would, therefore, be inherited through torsion from the parent universe. As for these new James Webb Telescope findings, Poplawski told Space.com, it would be fascinating if our universe had a preferred axis, such an axis could be naturally explained by the theory that our universe was born on the other side of an event horizon of a black hole existing in some parent universe. He added that black holes form from stars or at the centers of galaxies and most likely globular clusters, which all rotate. That means black holes also rotate, and the axis of rotation of a black hole would influence a universe created by the black hole, manifesting itself as a preferred axis. I think that the simplest explanation of the rotating universe is the universe was born in a rotating black hole. Space-time torsion provides the most natural mechanism that avoids a singularity in a black hole and instead creates a new closed universe. Poplawski continued, a preferred axis in our universe inherited by the axis of rotation of its parent black hole might have influenced the rotational dynamics of galaxies, creating the observed clockwise counter-rotation asymmetry, or counterclockwise asymmetry. The discovery by the James Webb Space Telescope that galaxies rotate in a preferred direction would support the theory of black holes creating new universes, and I would be extremely excited if these findings are confirmed. How could you confirm it? You said that data only goes one way. How are you going to confirm it? You're going to go in but then you could never get out.
Well, maybe if they find those stargates and portals and they go back, they check, and they like in the movie Back to the Future, then they come back. Maybe.
Oh, yeah.
If they have that super fast car that is hit by thunder or electricity, they can travel.
Yeah. Well, okay. So we're waiting for Fast and Furious 9 to come out where they have space travel from cars. Yeah. Okay. Another explanation for why the James Webb Space Telescope may have seen an overrepresentation of galaxies rotating in one direction is that the Milky Way's own rotation could have caused it. Previously, scientists had considered the speed of our galaxy's rotation to be too slow to have a non-negligible impact on observations made by the JWST. If that is indeed the case, we will need to recalibrate our distance measurements for the deep universe, Shamir concluded. The recalibration of distance measurements can also explain several other unsolved questions in cosmology, such as the differences in the expansion rates of the universe and the large galaxies that, according to the existing distance measurements, are expected to be older than the universe itself. The team research was published this month, and monthly notice of, all that stuff. I just think that this is a way of them trying to avoid, hey, God did it, right? And I don't think it really solves the problem, because when a black hole is created, it's created by the collapsing of a star. And so the amount of material you have on the inside of a black hole is no greater than the size of the star. How do you get a universe out of that? How do you get multiple stars and galaxies and all of this matter out of that? That doesn't make sense.
Well, the Martians, with a thermonuclear explosion from the first topic, they created that.
Yeah, with the help of the super sentient octopi. Yeah.
But unfortunately, all these scientists with these different theories, they're not working together. So that's why we're making this podcast, to hopefully put all of this group together so they can continue publishing, this, scientific articles. So I think it makes sense. We're doing good to the society.
Yes, and when the octopus overlords see this, they will know that we are allies, and they won't eat us.
Yeah, the Great Kraken will avoid us.
Yes.
Okay, now let's watch a video which is 9 minutes. If it's too long or repetitive or not so much fun, I'm just gonna pause it at one point so that we don't have to watch everything. But it's basically explaining what we've been reading with some more info.
We live inside what we call the universe, but if we take a closer look, it seems that there are some connections between a black hole and our universe. So is it possible that we are living inside of a black hole? This turns out to be a good question to answer, because there are so many people that, in approaching cosmology and astrophysics for the first time, found themselves with plenty of questions about the universe that we live in. We could say that everybody is interested in a mix of existential questions that turn out to have both philosophic and scientific answers. This happens because we're humans and we stay up all night asking questions. One could drive himself nuts asking questions like that. But don't worry, we're here for you, trying to help you at least. Have the universe and a black hole have anything in common? They seem so different, but are they? Follow me on this journey through the universe to find out more about the connection and differences between black holes and the existence of our universe, between event horizons, particle horizons, between black hole singularity and Big Bang singularity. A black hole cosmology, also called Schwarzschild cosmology or black hole cosmological model, is a cosmological model in which the observable universe is in the interior of a black hole. Such models were originally proposed by theoretical physicist Raj Bathiria and concurrently by mathematician I.J. Good. Any such model requires that the Hubble radius of the observable universe be equal to its Schwarzschild radius, that is, the product of its mass and the Schwarzschild proportionality constant. This is indeed known to be nearly the case. However, most cosmologists consider this close match a coincidence. But let's take a step back and consider some connections between a black hole and our universe. The first coincidence: mass of the universe and size of a black hole. There is this coincidence when we're looking at the universe and we're comparing the universe to a black hole. We look at the universe and say, if there was a black hole the size of this universe, how much mass would the black hole need to be the mass of the universe? It's a really simple equation. You plug it into Schrodinger's equations, and then you get the mass of the universe. This is a little bit interesting. If you plug in the mass of the universe into the black hole equations, you get the size of the universe. At first blush, the universe and black hole do seem to have some similarities. The second coincidence: event horizon and particle horizon. The event horizon boundary marks the limits of a black hole. At the event horizon, the escape velocity is equal to the speed of light. Since general relativity states that nothing can travel faster than the speed of light, nothing inside the event horizon can ever cross the boundary and escape beyond it, including light. Thus, nothing that enters a black hole can get out, or can be observed from outside of the event horizon. The particle horizon, also called the cosmological horizon or the cosmic light horizon, is the maximum distance from which light from particles could have traveled to the observer in the age of the universe. It represents the boundary between the observable and the unobservable regions of the universe, so its distance at the present epoch defines the size of the observable universe. Due to the expansion of the universe, however, it is not simply the age of the universe times the speed of light, as in the Hubble horizon, but rather the speed of light multiplied by the conformal time. The existence, properties, and significance of a cosmological horizon depend on the particular cosmological model used. Also, both the Big Bang and black holes do possess the concept of singularity. We can easily see that there are some connections to both the event horizon and particle horizon. We get caught by a black hole, and once we come in, we can't get out. We're inside the universe trying to get out, but we can't because there's a limit to how far we can travel. But is this enough to conclude that we're living inside a black hole? Of course not. Let's go on and try to have a discussion on differences between a black hole and a universe. The first difference being, the black hole singularity is actually different from the Big Bang singularity. In the center of a black hole is a gravitational singularity, a one-dimensional point which contains a huge mass in an infinitely small space, where density and gravity become infinite and space-time curves infinitely, and where the laws of physics as we know them cease to operate. As the eminent American physicist Kip Thorne described it, it is the point where all laws of physics break down. Current theory suggests that as an object falls into a black hole and approaches the singularity at the center, it'll become stretched out or spaghettified due to the increasing differential and gravitational attraction on different parts of it, before presumably losing dimensionality completely and disappearing irreversibly into singularity. An observer watching from a safe distance outside, though, would have a different view of the event. According to the relativity theory, they would see the object moving slower and slower as it approaches the black hole, until it comes to a complete halt at the event horizon, never actually falling into the black hole. Instead, the Big Bang singularity, or the initial singularity, is one that predicts by some models of the Big Bang theory to have existed before the Big Bang, and thought to have contained all the energy and spacetime of the universe. The instant immediately following the initial singularity is part of the Planck epoch, the earliest period of time in the history of the universe. Black hole singularity is just a piece of spacetime embedded inside of a larger universe. While the Big Bang singularity is the whole universe, it's where it all started. The second difference: when it comes to the event horizon, we can say that a black hole's event horizon, it's like a bubble. embedded against a larger universe, and once you get in, you can't go out. Whereas in the universe, no matter where you go, you're already inside the bubble. The third difference being, furthermore, a black hole singularity is something that lies in the future. If you entered a black hole, no matter where you move and how much you strive to get out, you'll be led into the singularity. You'll always end up in that singularity. It's always in the future. Instead, the Big Bang singularity is something that happened in the past. If you go back into the past, you will realize that you can't avoid that singularity. But if you go into the future, you can move everywhere you want, in any direction, without ending up in that singularity. So, it seems we've learned something more. But it still isn't enough. In fact, it seems that we have added some new stuff, without ending up to a satisfying conclusion. Our question is still unanswered. We learned that there are connections between black holes in our universe, but we also learned that there are some substantial differences. So what's the truth? Well, it appears the truth does not lie in some physical reasons, but in the mathematical constructions. Here's why. We look at our reality, at our universe, through the eyes of Einstein's relativity. The fact that if you look at the universe and kind of play this pretend game that it's a black hole, it's just a coincidence. It is the result of the fact that we are using the same equations to describe both our universe and black holes. We describe both of them using the general relativity theory set of equations. A set of equations can be applied in many different scenarios. In our case, it can be applied to the black hole as well as applied to the evolution of our universe. However, in both cases, once you've solved the set of equations mathematically, you get a set of solutions that are pretty much similar, just because they come from the same set of equations. Can you see the thin connection between the two? We could say it's because of the math and not physics that we get tricked, but because of that, some coincidences do pop up. There are, of course, similarities between black holes in the universe. For example, the fact that both are thought to have a symmetrical distribution, and this leads to similar solution in terms of mathematics. But we can ask a further question. Even if it wasn't a mathematical coincidence, and it turns out we actually do live inside of a black hole, so what? Nothing would change. The equations that describe our evolution of the universe would be the same. All our knowledge of cosmology would be the same. We would still be limited by the particle constant. We would not learn anything. We would not gain anything. So even if there was a chance for us to be caught in a black hole, our suggestion is, as Paul M. Sutter said, don't take that similarity too far. Sometimes a cigar is just a cigar, and sometimes a set of spherical symmetric solutions are just a set of spherical symmetric solutions.
Wow. I just want to say how much I appreciate this beautifully combined video with explanations that, yeah, could be and are complex, but they don't necessarily have to make your brain go hurt. And kudos to the person who put all this together. I have included all the articles and all the videos that we're using tonight. So if it's on your heart, subscribe to this channel, support their work, because they deserve. It's a lot of work, especially this video. Oh, it's amazing. Shaun, any comments on what we didn't read based on the information, the new information that we were provided? And then I want to read one short but interesting info when it comes to a black hole.
I completely agree with what he said. I was thinking about that when they were talking about the size of the universe and how it happens to fit with the black hole. And it's like, well, yeah, if you start with, well, what could contain the universe, and then you use those equations, yeah, you're going to say, well, a black hole could contain all the matter in the universe because we're starting with all the matter in the universe. It's kind of just, prompting the question and then having the data set there and filling it in, and the equations provide you with, as it said, you're using the equations and the math is tricking you.
Shaun, do you remember which classic sci-fi movie from like 20, 30 years ago ends up with aliens playing marbles with universes and planets like planet Earth? Was it Men in Black? Was it Fifth Element? Which movie was it?
I think it was Men in Black, wasn't it? Because of the ball that was on Orion's belt, it was our universe, and then they were playing marbles with it.
Yeah, so why am I thinking about this is, let's say this theory is true, hypothetically speaking. Again, I would agree and add on what you said a while ago. this doesn't explain the theory of the very beginning, and this certainly doesn't explain the cause of all of this. So whatever is true, whatever theory out there being true, and I'm not relying on the God of the Gaps theory. I'm just saying as God's massive mind plan and incredible divine intelligence putting everything together so that we can be in awe, give glory to Him. But it also says in the Bible that it's God likes to hide things so that it pleases Him when we discover these things, because first we love discoveries as human race, and that pleases Him because the more discoveries, including scientific discoveries, we're making, we're getting closer to God, and we are making His heart glad, because then we're using our brains for the right purpose. Hi, Amber. And we're doing then, I think, the right thing. I just want to read, like I said, one thing that is very interesting when it comes to the black hole, any black hole. It says the idea that 1 hour by a black hole equals to 1,000 Earth years is a simplified illustration of gravitational time dilation, a real phenomenon predicted by Albert Einstein's theory of general relativity, where time passes at different rates in different gravitational fields. For an observer close to a black hole, time would feel normal. But for someone far away, like on Earth, thousands of years could pass in the time that an hour passes for the person near the black hole. The exact time difference depends on the black hole's mass and the observer's proximity to it. Why am I saying this? Well, not just that we've seen this concept in so many sci-fi movies and TV shows, but it just reminds me of the Bible. It reminds me of that a difference, how God sees time and how we perceive time. It's like, and maybe this should be encouraging to some of people out there. Well, I'm even trying to encourage myself. You know, when you pray for something for years, maybe even decades, God, when is my time? God, when will you hear my prayer and answer on it? But God's timing completely goes in a different way. I mean, God is even outside of time, but He's also present in time. Right. So when I was reading that about black holes, how, you know, the time is different around the black hole, I was just thinking about biblical passages that one day can be 1,000 years and vice versa. And I'm like, man, even science can say something similar to it, including Einstein. Any concluding thoughts to this subtopic of black holes, and are we living, is our universe in a black hole?
I just think that it's awesome that you were able to bring the Bible in on that with the science of, you know, 1,000 years is like one day to the Lord, and then you know, the idea that it's the glory of God to conceal the matter and the glory of kings to find them out. Yeah, so I really like that you brought the Bible into that. You know, even though we're talking about some super fringe scientific stuff, that regardless of who it is that's trying to discover what, all they're doing is they're discovering the glories that God has hidden in our universe.
Okay. I'm gonna read a short article and then we'll watch another video, and we're getting close. We are beginning the last session, which could be the most interesting one for some people, especially those including you know, in the doomsday section of religious people. But also, I mean, science even sometimes gives us predictions based on the different interstellar objects in space, or like, you know, ecology. You know, the Earth is getting too hot. So occasionally we even get from scientific community, you know, these scary predictions. So let's see what this Harvard scientist believes. He says that interstellar comet could be an alien craft. We should put all possibilities on the table. And the video doesn't want to play. I don't know if it's because of my ad blocker. I disable it and restarted it many times, but that's why I have additional videos, so we cannot watch the video on this page. He says, scientists are watching a newly discovered object in space. And I've been reading and seeing news about this object every day in the last month or so. This is like the hottest, one of the hottest topics out there, you know, recently. So scientists have been watching a newly discovered object in space, and most of them agree it's a comet, but not all of them. A Harvard scientist who believes he's seen proof of alien life before, and there's a link to that article, suspect this object may instead have alien origins. Professor Avi Leb said that there's a clear signs that the comet known as 3I/Atlas could be an alien craft. He says that we should put all possibilities on the table, that it's a rock, a comet, or something else until we get the evidence. So the data that will tell us what it is, Leb said in an interview with some TV station. Professor and his team said that the interstellar object is on an extremely unusual course for a comet, one that will take it close to Venus, Mars, and Jupiter. Leb said that the object appears to be intelligently directed, and if it is alien, that the world should prepare. This is an interesting subtitle, Blind Date from a Visitor. And then these are his words. I think that when we have a blind date from a visitor from another star, all bets are off, said Leb. We shouldn't assume anything, and we should assess the risk given the data that we have. Leb said that the risk should be assessed using something like the Richter scale for earthquakes. He says that 0 would be a natural object like a comet. 10 would be an object that maneuvers as if it has an engine, that is definitely technological. And then there should be some policymakers deciding how to respond to that. Professor Leb says that the object will pass closest to the sun on October 29th. Professor on aliens. We see a lot of houses on the cosmic street that look just like ours, analogs of the Earth's sun system, Leb said. And I think it's very arrogant for us to assume that they don't have residents. So it's a short article, like I said, and I want to switch to the video where last 7 minutes. We don't have to watch all of the 7 minutes. Do you have any opinion on this so far? Because as I've seen when I was researching further, some scientists disagree with Professor Leb. Says, yeah, it won't hit us. It won't be this date. It's not even that big of a deal. Yet not everyone agrees with the overwhelming scientific community. I don't know if you've been watching or at least hearing about this. This has been a hot topic for over a month.
I haven't. This is, for this episode, this is the first that I'm hearing about this. But to me, again, it's interesting, that we just kind of make this jump from, it's kind of an odd trajectory for a comet, must be an alien. Like that, to me, that's kind of weird, right? I don't know. Maybe I'm just weird.
What if it's Superman's like a spacecraft?
It could be Superman's pod coming from Krypton. Yeah, planet Krypton.
Yeah. Wait, is he coming with a dog? Because in the latest movie, he comes with a dog. So I don't know.
He has to have a dog. I mean, this is America. If you don't come with a dog, what are you?
It's a space dog. I don't know if it needs oxygen to survive. Probably not.
Just love. That's all it needs is love. That's it.
So this is like a kind of hippie soupy.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Hippie soupy. Yep. You're right.
Hippie soupy. Okay. I'll be sharing this video of the interstellar object 3I-Atlas.
We've got some fresh images of 3I Atlas, a third ever interstellar object observed from Earth, currently racing through our solar system. Now, astronomers have captured that moment live, streaming in real time around the globe of them watching all of this. Take a look at this.
Oh, everybody.
Oh, nice.
Yes, look at that bad boy.
This is a raw image. So this is not even this is just directly from the telescope right now.
You're looking at a piece of what would have become a planet in another star system. This is a building block from somebody else's home.
This is a building block from somebody else's home. I mean, hard not to get stoked about that. Even though it doesn't look like much, it means a lot. And all eyes are on that developing tail. Or maybe it's not a tail, but 3I Atlas is moving closer to the sun. There's still so much we don't know. And with the sun's glare taking over our window to see this interstellar visitor from Earth, is closing fast. Meanwhile, Mars is about to get a front row seat coming up on the cosmic calendar, October 3rd. That is when 3i Atlas swings by the big red planet and NASA's Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter. That could give us our best look yet. Harvard astronomer Avi Loeb calls it a blind date with deep space. And Professor Loeb joins us now. Professor, always great to see you. Thanks so much for being with us. Just finished your latest essay. It looks like it was posted like 3 hours ago. I got to just jump in with the possible size of this thing, like 20 to 40 kilometer diameter. That's massive. That is bigger than, I don't know, like city size, maybe like San Francisco or something. And then you are talking with your astronomer buddies about the possibility that this is a megastructure, like an artificial megastructure. Let's start with like the possible sci-fi of it all.
Well, thanks for having me. The biggest question is whether the reflection of sunlight is coming from a solid surface, in which case, as you pointed out, it could be as big as 40 kilometers, twice as big as Manhattan Island, or maybe a dense cloud of dust. Now, until recently, we haven't seen dust being pushed back behind the object by the solar radiation pressure. And so one had to conclude that perhaps we are seeing a giant object, but a rock that big is 1 million times more massive than the previous interstellar objects that we've seen, Oumuamua and Borisov. And that is quite unlikely. So either this is actually a dense cloud of dust that somehow did not produce until recently a tail, or this is not a rock. And in that case, maybe it's targeting the inner solar system. We know that the trajectory is very well aligned with the planets, and it will come very close, as you pointed out, to Mars, and later in March 2026 to Jupiter. And so the fundamental question, as far as I'm concerned, is what is the object? How big is it? And with the camera HiRISE that is on board the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter, we should be able to resolve the object with a pixel size of 30 kilometers. That will be our best chance in the immediate future to tell what is it.
So we're going to lose the Earth perspective, but we're going to get a perspective from some of the imagery and imagers that we have around Mars or on Mars. That is fascinating stuff. But I got to stop you, like rewind you a little bit. Getting back to the tail. Is the tail now pointing in the right direction? Because for a while there, it seemed like the tail was pointing towards the sun, right?
Right. And in fact, I'm now working on a paper trying to understand that. This is the first time something like that is observed, where there is a glow ahead of the object towards the sun. And now, as it approached closer to the sun, there seemed to be some teardrop shape to the plume of gas and dust around it. And that may be just the focusing of whatever is scattering sunlight around it by the solar wind or by the solar radiation pressure. We don't know exactly what is causing it. As it comes closer to the sun, we will get much better information because, interrogation tactics often uses stressful environment to get a confession, and in this case we might get a confession from this visitor as to the nature of it and where it came from, and it's all exciting. Science can be fun as long as you open your mind to something new, and we definitely know there are new things in this context because, for example, we detected nickel without iron in some recent data around the object, and that the only way you get that usually is from industrial production of nickel alloys. And so there are many open questions. The plume of gas around it is mostly carbon dioxide, 95% by mass, based on the Webb telescope data, and only 5% by mass, water vapor. So, we don't fully understand what's going on there.
And Professor, I know very early on, before we had a little bit more fidelity here, I asked you, and you're like, it's probably a comet. Is it becoming less and less likely of a comet here in your eyes?
For now, I rank it 4 on the scale that I define that is called the Loeb scale, where 0 is a natural object and 10 is a technological object. But just a couple of hours ago, I heard from 2 car racers in NASCAR that want to put my image on their car because of 3i Atlas. Apparently, the race is in October, and just around the time when this object will come closest to the sun, and it's becoming a very fashionable subject, even for sport aficionados.
Oh, wow. So that image on a very fast car.
Okay, we'll stop here for the sake of time. Shaun, any brief comment on this? And then we're switching to the same topic, but where actually the same professor, the same scholar was, talking about another similar, interstellar object that could be related to this one. So then you can read just some small portions of that article. And I have Michio Kaku, the famous scientist, speaking about the same topic, and that will be the ending of our episode. So any brief comments about this?
Yeah, it seems like they're just trying to drive up attention for this, because even the professor was like, still more likely to be a comet than something else. So he's just kind of has this fashionable theory that, it could be something else, but the possibilities aren't leaning in that direction.
Yeah, and I think that I think him, but I'm not 100% sure, but I think him and some other people, they've been changing their theories in the last several weeks based on the data they're getting. Like, hey, this item is changing speed or changing direction. So it's like they're still trying to understand, is someone leading or maneuvering that object, or just, aimlessly just going through space? This is why he's now lowering. He used to say it looks like an alien craft, but now he's lowering from 1 to 10. He says, maybe from 1 to 10, it's only 4 it has ability to be alien. So I think he's now lowering the possibilities, because until very recently, his hypothesis would be to be more alien-ish. So I appreciate people's intellectual honesty. They're like, hey, we're getting data. At the beginning, something looked like that. It doesn't even have to be this topic, anything. But now we have more data, so I'm going to be a little bit more, I'm going to, just hold my breath and not jump into conclusions, because with more data, I'm not so sure anymore. And I appreciate people. We all make mistakes. We all get new information and new beliefs. How often we change our doctrinal stands and theological beliefs throughout our years, and that's very normal. So I want to just say that I appreciate this about him. Yeah, I have half of the article. We're going to skip the lengthy intro that you can read. When it comes to I used to pronounce his last name Leb, but I guess it's Lob based on how the news anchor pronounced it, but it doesn't matter. So I think we can go from here till the end.
Loeb was also the primary researcher who claimed that the unusual shape and non-gravitational acceleration of the interstellar object, whatever that is, were signs that it was an alien probe. Today, the general consensus is that the thing was an asteroid that was leaking gas into space, similar to a comet. However, Loeb and his colleagues have continued to advocate its potential alien origin and have proposed missions to track down the wandering space rock. Loeb's co-authors for the new study are both associated with the Initiative for Interstellar Studies, a UK institute dedicated to planning future missions to alien star systems. In a blog post explaining the new paper, Loeb wrote that if Atlas is a technological artifact, it could be evidence of the dark forest hypothesis, which argues that the reason we have not found evidence of extraterrestrial life is that they are staying silent to remain invisible to potential predators or prey. The consequences, should the hypothesis turn out to be correct, could potentially be dire for humanity and would possibly require defensive measures to be undertaken, he wrote.
There's more, but I stopped here intentionally because this interstellar object that is not the same as 3i-Atlas, Oumuamua, that was mentioned. I have another article. I'm just not sharing the screen. was also described or authored by the same guy, but this was back in 2021, and he titled that article with "Could there be a link between interstellar visitor Oumuamua and identified aerial phenomena?" So it's an interesting article, but I found it very relatable to this mini topic of 3I-Atlas interstellar object coming to us, because it's not you know when did we hear about this Oumuamua object before? No, it's been only recently mentioned, at least not the wider population. How many people have been Googling this? No, not many, maybe a few in the whole world. But now it's becoming more interesting because of the same scientist who's been talking about some other interstellar object, including Atlas. So I think this is interesting because we can see cross references. Yeah, you can continue reading, please.
All right. Alien evidence. Most of the points laid out in the new paper relate to the unusual trajectory of Atlas. The object is moving significantly faster than only known interstellar objects. The word that you said, I think it's Oumuamua, and comet Borisov, which was spotted in 2019 and has entered the solar system at a different angle from its predecessors, approaching the sun side on relative to our star's orbit through the Milky Way. Loeb wrote that the object's trajectory offers various benefits to an extraterrestrial intelligence that may be using it to subtly spy on Earth. One such benefit is that Atlas will make relatively close approaches to 3 planets, Jupiter, Mars, and Venus, and the minimum distances between the object and these worlds could enable aliens to discreetly deploy gadgets. There, Loeb wrote. Atlas will also be hidden on the opposite side of the sun to Earth when it reaches its closest point to our home star in late October. This could be intentional to avoid detailed observations from Earth-based telescopes when the object is brightest or when gadgets are sent to the Earth from that hidden vantage point, said Loeb. The unusually high speed of Atlas also makes it very hard to launch a spacecraft to intercept it before it exits the solar system, which could be another potential sign of clandestine alien activity, the researchers argued. Based on its current speed, Loeb also noted that Atlas would have entered the outer boundaries of the solar system around 8,000 years ago, which is roughly when human-made technologies became advanced enough to start documenting history on Earth, although it is unclear what he is trying to imply by saying this. The researchers also argued that there is insufficient evidence to show conclusively that Atlas is a comet, especially as researchers are yet to identify any volatiles or specific chemicals associated with comets within its coma. Controversial claims. Since Atlas was discovered, researchers have been trying to identify it, and so far the overwhelming consensus is that it is a comet. There have been numerous telescopic observations of Atlas demonstrating that it's displaying classical signatures of cometary activity. Daryl Seligman, an astronomer at Michigan State University who led the first study quantifying Atlas, told Live Science in an email, "All evidence points to this being an ordinary comet that was ejected from another solar system, just as countless billions of comets have been ejected from our own solar system," added Samantha Lawler, an astronomer at the University of Regina in Canada who specializes in solar system dynamics. Any assumption about the object's lack of volatiles is also premature at this time. The object is still pretty far away from the sun, so no, we wouldn't typically expect to find direct evidence of volatiles necessarily, Seligman said. Instead, these compounds will likely become apparent in the coming weeks and months, he added. Loeb admits that the alien technology scenario is a long shot. By far, the most likely outcome will be that Atlas is a completely natural interstellar object, probably a comet, he wrote in the blog post.
Cool, thanks. We'll stop here because there's a little bit more to the ending, but I just want to share this. They're like excited about this. They're like, "Ooh, look at this technological high definition video." I'm like, dude, I can only see some light. This reminds me when people visit those Bigfoot places, and they're followed by the light orbs. I'm like, yeah, I know this is far, so they cannot have like high definition resolution, but it's like, what are we even seeing here? So okay, so basically in the section of the article that you read, his opinion before now he changed that, it may not be so alien as we saw in this video. His initial hypothesis was like, oh, this is probably alien spaceship or comet that is intentionally passing by, in our solar system by 3 planets and going on the other side of the sun so that we cannot try to observe it. So it's all like a big spy, high technological alien, conspiracy. And I'm like, okay, again, it sounds amazing for a TV show or a novel or like a comic book or a movie. But then I'm glad that as more data is coming, as the comet is approaching, he's like lowering his sci-fi hypothesis. I mean, yeah, it sounds intriguing, of course, and we ought to be curious. But I just like, we shouldn't jump to conclusions. I also want to say one more thing. So the difference between what we've seen in that video of 3I-Atlas, and this Oumuamua, 2 interstellar objects, the difference is that Atlas is a newly discovered, potentially much larger and rather interstellar object than the first one, Oumuamua, which was oddly elongated and showed anomalous acceleration without a visible comma or tail. While Oumuamua's, it appeared to be in the shape of an asteroid, yet moves like a comet. Atlas is exhibiting comet-like activity by producing a comma and faint tails, suggesting it is rich in ice and dust. Its orbit also appears more consistent with a solar system's thin disk, unlike the more hyperbolic path of Oumuamua, which entered from the halo of the galaxy. So there are these cool differences and parallels between these 2 objects. They're both approaching in our system, or we're approaching, and it's very cool. This is the last source for tonight. 17 minutes. No way we're going to watch everything, maybe just first few minutes, and then we'll be doing the concluding part. So let's see what famous Michio Kaku says about this other interstellar object, Oumuamua.
We're talking about out of 100 billion stars in the Milky Way galaxy, we're talking about billions of potential Earth-sized planets. And to believe that we're the only one is, I think, rather ridiculous. Sophistication of an alien life form, if we make contact with them, I think in this century, we'll probably pick up signals from an extraterrestrial civilization.
What if a physicist as respected as Michio Kaku told us that a mysterious visitor from another star showed signs of something planned in its movements? That's exactly what just happened. Kaku has released shocking new analysis about Oumuamua, revealing distinct mathematical patterns in its acceleration that hint at something deeply unusual. This isn't random drift. The tiny forces pushing this interstellar visitor appeared too orderly to be accidental, almost as if some mechanism was deliberately modulating its trajectory. And right after this revelation, astronomers spotted a brand new interstellar object racing into our solar system. Coincidence? Or the start of something bigger? The timing has left scientists worldwide scrambling to make sense of what's happening above our heads. The cosmic mystery that began in 2017 just took an unexpected turn. And what comes next could change how we view our place in the universe forever. Kaku's new data. Michio Kaku, renowned theoretical physicist and co-founder of string field theory, didn't just revisit old Oumuamua data, he transformed it. His team applied state-of-the-art computational methods to squeeze more insights from those limited 2017 observations. What they found stunned the scientific community. The tiny accelerations pushing Oumuamua weren't random noise as previously thought. They followed a distinct mathematical pattern. These forces appeared to counterbalance solar gravity with surprising precision. Think of it not as a rock tumbling chaotically through space, but more like a sailboat making subtle, deliberate adjustments to maintain course. Even more puzzling were the thermal and rotational anomalies. The object's temperature measurements and spin state didn't align with what we'd expect from an inert rock. Instead, they hinted at something potentially more complex, perhaps internal heat or some form of propulsion. This is disturbing evidence, Kaku noted. The object's behavior seems to defy the conventional laws of physics, as we understand them for natural space debris. It's not proof of anything artificial, but it's unsettling enough to make even skeptical scientists stop and wonder what exactly we witnessed racing through our solar system. So, let's break this down. Imagine throwing a stick across a lake. It spins wildly, slows down, maybe veers randomly. That's what we'd expect from space rocks. But Oumuamua, it didn't drift randomly, it looked like it was correcting itself. That's why Kaku calls it disturbing. The implications are enormous. If these patterns hold up to further scrutiny, we might need to reconsider everything we thought we knew about interstellar objects. But before scientists could even digest Kaku's findings, the universe itself threw a curveball that nobody saw coming. Then this happened. 3I Atlas arrives. Just as the scientific community was grappling with Kaku's revelations, the cosmos delivered an unexpected twist. In July 2025, mere months after Kaku's bombshell analysis, astronomers announced the discovery of our third confirmed interstellar visitor, 3I/ATLAS. First spotted by telescopes in Chile on July 1st, this new cosmic traveler immediately proved its origins weren't from our solar system. Its hyperbolic trajectory unmistakably showed it came from the stars beyond. But unlike its mysterious predecessor, 3I/ATLAS isn't hiding its nature. Where Oumuamua baffled us with its lack of visible tail, strange acceleration, and enigmatic properties, this new visitor is putting on a spectacular show. 3I/Atlas is massive, up to 20 kilometers wide, and behaving exactly as astronomers would expect from a typical comet. It's developing a glowing coma and tail as it approaches our sun, releasing gas and dust in ways we can easily detect and measure. It's as if the cosmos answered our questions about Oumuamua with another messenger, one that's playing by all the conventional rules of physics. Before we reveal what scientists are now racing to do about these cosmic visitors, hit subscribe so you don't miss future
Yeah, hit subscribe to their channel and to our channel. And by the way, just check the statistics. We got 3 subscribers during this show. So wow, thank you so much. May God bless you. It's an encouragement because everything we do and offer to the audience is completely free. We don't have any VIP section because I was against that from the very get-go. I also want to read this, and then I'll leave Shaun to do the concluding part, is that this interstellar comet, 3I Atlas, it will, even though it will not arrive on Earth, it is still passing through our solar system, and it will reach its closest approach to Earth on December 19 of this year, of course, at a distance of approximately 168 million miles, posing no threat to our planet. The comet will be unobservable from Earth during its solar conjunction in October and November before reappearing on the other side of the sun in early December. And a month from now, so in October of this year, this interstellar comet will fly by Mars. So I'm hoping for better and more clear images. And unless those Martians that survived the nuclear war 100 million years on Mars, those who survived, we hope they will not just catch this, comet and claim it is their own, and then we will have no special images arriving our way. Of course, I'm just joking because it has to deal with the first topic we covered for tonight about 2 hours ago. I want to just thank everyone. We'll be seeing you this Sunday evening where Shaun is back, and we are welcoming Pastor back again on the channel. We'll be talking about giants, UFOs, and underworld passages and potential cities on the Solomon Islands. And then the next 3 or 4 weeks, they'll be primarily Sundays, will be primarily scholarly, theological topics with, of course, our fringe, Fantastic Friday sessions. And before we are done for tonight, Shaun, any concluding topics to Michio Kaku, Oumuamua, and this Atlas interstellar object?
Yeah, I'm gonna make a concluding comment on the whole video, not just this section. As we can see, scientists propose these crazy fringe theories in order to try to come up with some sort of rational explanation for the universe and the way that things operate, that allows them to circumvent God. They won't have God in their thinking. They refuse to let the glory of God that has been placed in the universe speak for itself and attest to its creator. So instead, they try to come up with all of these weird theoretical fringe theories that are much more difficult to believe than that God who loves you, who created you for his own good pleasure, loved the world so much that he sent his own son to die for our sins, that whoever believes in him might be saved and would spend eternity with God in the world that he created for our good and his glory. And Paul talks about this kind of thing in Romans in chapter 1. He says, and considering themselves wise, thinking themselves wise, they became futile in their thinking, and their foolish hearts were darkened. This is what we see happening. These people think that they're being wise. They're using their PhDs to try to give their crazy fringe theories weight, and people are eating it up. I mean, obviously, they want this stuff that sounds like it came out of comic books, and yet it's more palatable to the flesh than the idea that there is a God who is sovereign over this universe, who meticulously controls the events of this universe in order to provide a place that we can be sheltered from all of the crazy, chaotic things that are going on out there. And he sustains us by the power of his word. I just have to say that, man, they are so pitiable. These people who refuse to have God in their thinking. They think that they're smart. They look down on us. They think that they're smart, that they have all of the answers. And yet when you test these theories against logic, that the way that we do logic is by thinking God's thoughts after him. I mean, he is the logos, right? So when we apply logical scrutiny to these theories, they just don't hold water. So I want to reaffirm those of you who are listening who are Christians. We have God's answers. We have the revelation of why things happen the way they happen. And don't be fooled by these people, and don't be frightened when they come out with these crazy theories and you're like, who could believe it? I mean, they're already fools because they reject God. And that's not to denigrate them at all. It's that we should expect this out of people who reject God in their thinking, that obviously if they're not going to look at the light, the only way that they can turn is to the darkness, right? And so we should pray for them, and we should do things like this podcast where we show, hey, these theories just don't hold water. You know, that they have broken cisterns that can't hold water, right?
But they're fun.
Yeah. So no, I just wanted to conclude this with, we have the truth, and we shouldn't be ashamed to share it with people, because they're not ashamed to promote their foolish theories. So we shouldn't be ashamed in promoting the truth.
Thank you, Shaun, for your pastoral ending of this video. And for those who are new, yeah, everything we cover here, could it be, something supernatural? Could it be fringe? Could it be scientific, archaeological, mythological? If it's horror, or if it's true eyewitness stories, it could be pop culture, it could be novels, TV shows, books, video games, or theology. Everything we do, we always try to compare with the Bible and with God, and to give God the glory, not to proselytize, not to give ultimatum to anyone. Hey, unless you're a Christian or you agree with us, you're not welcome on the channel. On the contrary, whoever you are, you're welcome. You're loved. You're not judged. But whatever we try to do, because it is a ministry more than just a mere podcast. We try to give God the glory, even though in our very own imperfect ways. So thank you for being with us. We went a little bit over 2 hours. I had so much fun. I'm expecting to have at least that much fun this Sunday evening with Shaun and Pastor Ben, again, where we'll be talking about the Solomon Islands, giants, UFOs, and the underworld passages and caves. So see you in less than 48 hours. God bless you. Subscribe, share our material with anyone. We have 184 long episodes and about 500, unless I'm mistaken, many short clips. They're completely for free for you to share, enjoy with your church, with your friends, with your family, with your neighbors, with whoever. God bless you. See you in 2 days. Shaun, it's so glad after a couple of months to have this segment back. God bless you and see you in 2 days. Take care.